What I'm about to tell you in this episode should absolutely scare everyone. Data collection is happening everywhere. Phones, cars, apps, doorbells, you name it. It's happening. But today, I want to zoom in on one device that is currently sitting in your living room, maybe your bedroom. The smart TV. Your TV wants to be on your Wi-Fi. And it's not because it cares about your wireless signal strength or wants to, get you access to Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus. A modern smart TV is basically an ad tech computer with a very large screen attached. And once it's online, it can watch what you watch, build a profile on you, and send pieces of that out to a whole ecosystem that you did not personally invite into your living room. Today, I'm going to make the most aggressively practical recommendation that I can. Do not connect your smart TV to your network. Keep the panel dumb and make the smart part a thing you can unplug, replace, and control. Welcome back to the Tyler Woodward Project. I'm Tyler, a broadcast engineer by trade, a Linux nerd by choice, and I enjoyed demystifying tech that's supposedly too complicated for people. Today, we're talking about smart TVs and surveillance. What's real, what's marketing, and what's outright dark pattern behavior, and what you can do about it without needing a PhD and packet captures. Here's how we're going to do this. First, I'll explain the main ways a TV can spy in plain language. Then we'll look at why the incentives are so strong and how opt-out often feels like a scavenger hunt or doesn't exist at all. Finally, I'll give you a setup that's boring, reliable, and much harder to exploit. Offline TV, plus a controlled streaming box. Let's get into it. Let's define spying, because most people mean different things by that. In this episode, spying means collecting data about what you watch, when you watch it, what device is doing the watching, and sometimes what's happening in the room itself. Then sending all that juicy data to the manufacturer or partners for ads, analytics, and tracking. The big one, ACR. ACR is automatic content recognition. Think of it like Shazam, but for video. Your TV can take tiny fingerprints of what's on the screen. Sometimes from HDMI inputs, not just the built-in apps, match it into content databases and log what you have watched. That can include over-the-air TV, cable boxes, game consoles, Blu-ray players, anything that produces a pixel and it's plugged into that device can be captured. If you're thinking, wait, the TV can recognize what my PlayStation is showing? Yeah, that's the point. It doesn't need to be the app provider. The TV is looking at the output as well. Viewing data is valuable because it helps advertisers connect ads to outcomes. Did you see the ad and then buy a thing later? That's the holy grail. Even without ACR, smart TVs and their apps send telemetry, usage, metrics, which app you opened, how long you watched, and what buttons you pressed, crashes, performance, and identifiers. You'll hear terms like advertising ID or device ID. That's basically a serial number for ad tech. It lets companies recognize this same TV over time. even if the TV isn't signed in to a personal account. A lot of platforms want you signed in. Email addresses, phone numbers, maybe a linked payment method. Once you do that, the data becomes easier to attach to a real identity and correlate with other devices on your network. Sometimes the matching is direct, sometimes it's best guess. These devices are on the same IP address at the same time, so they're probably in the same household. You don't just get ads, you get profile building. And profiles tend to outlive the device they were created on. Sometimes this is real, oftentimes it's overstated, but some TVs and remotes have microphones for voice search. When that's enabled, audio has to go somewhere for speech recognition, either processed locally or sent to the cloud. Now, let me be clear, I'm not claiming every smart TV is constantly recording your conversations for fun, but I am saying that the presence of a mic plus unclear settings plus always-on connectivity is, well, a risk multiplier, and manufacturers have not earned the benefit of the doubt. In theory, you can toggle settings, limit ad tracking, disable ACR, interest-based ads, you can turn those off, and so on. In practice, it's often buried, inconsistently named, resets after updates, or gets reprompted in ways that nudge you toward hitting that agree button. And in some ecosystems, this is where we'll talk about Roku. People have reported that meaningful opt-out is limited or not clearly offered for certain types of data collection. The exact knobs vary by device model and firmware version, which is part of the problem. You can't manage privacy if the controls are a moving target. The TV business changed. Manufacturers sell panels on thin margins. The money is in the platform. Ads, promoted content, revenue shares from subscriptions and data. If you bought a great deal on a huge screen at Best Buy on Black Friday, there's a decent chance you didn't buy a TV. You bought an ad slot that came with a TV attached. But I already paid for the TV, you say? Yeah. And that's the uncomfortable part, right? That, the transaction you think you made is money for hardware. The transaction the platform wants is money for hardware plus ongoing monetization through attention and data. That's why the out-of-the-box experience tries so hard to get the TV online immediately. It's also why skip is often small, or you get multiple screens that feel mandatory, or you're just flat out pressured to create an account just to access features you don't actually want. Vizio is the useful real-world reference point because it's not hypothetical. In 2017, Vizio agreed to a settlement with the FTC and the New Jersey Attorney General over collecting viewer data via ACR and sharing it in ways regulators said wasn't, properly disclosed or consented to. The settlement included monetary penalties and requirements around disclosure and consent. It's evidence that TVs collecting viewer data, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a business model that has, at least in some cases, crossed legal lines. Roku and the no real opt-out frustration. Let's talk about that because Roku is popular because it's simple, fast, and has good app coverage. And best of all, it's usually cheaper, right? But you kind of get what you pay for, I guess. That convenience and that cheapness comes with a platform business model where people run into the same pattern. privacy controls that exist but don't fully stop data collection, controls that are hard to interpret, and prompts that keep trying to re-enable personalization. Even if a platform gives you some toggles, your core problem remains. The device is still on your network, still talking to services you don't control, and still updating in ways you can't fully predict. If your goal is to stop the surveillance, the winning move is not better menu diving. The winning move is removing the network path altogether. Here's the setup I recommend if you're anti this crap and you mean it. During setup, skip Wi-Fi. If it tries to force a connection, look for setup later. Use basic TV or skip altogether if it gives you that option at all. If the TV already has Wi-Fi credentials saved, remove them and forget the network. If it has an Ethernet jack, leave it empty. Don't plug anything into it. No network means no telemetry, no ACR uploads, no ad auctions, no just one more consent screen. And no surprise firmware update that changes your settings while you're making dinner. If you still want streaming, because obviously this is the 21st century, move that function to a separate box or stick. Pick one where you can keep app permissions tighter, disable ad personalization, update on your schedule, and replace the device without replacing the screen. If your streaming device gets weird, you swap a $30 to $150 box, not a $600 television. If you absolutely must put the TV online, maybe put it on a separate VLAN or guest network with limited access to other devices. This doesn't stop the TV from phoning home. It does help reduce collateral damage if the TV gets compromised, and it limits household graph building via the local network discovery. Tools like Pi-hole or NextDNS can reduce the blast radius by blocking known tracking and ad domains. But don't treat DNS blocking as the magic cloak. Platforms can and do change domains. They use CDNs and they bundle services together. The cleanest privacy control is still don't connect the TV to the internet. If you do nothing else, remember this: a toggle is a promise. A network cable is physics. Your TV wants to be on your Wi-Fi, and it's not for your benefit. If you want a screen, buy a screen. Keep it offline. Then make the smart part a separate device you can control, or unplug when it gets a little too creepy. Visit tylerwoodward.me, follow at tylerwoodward.me on Instagram and Threads, subscribe and like the show on your favorite podcast platform. I'll catch you next week, hopefully with less scary news.